Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. This is the second or part 2 video of the rebuild of the Himi. So the parts have arrived from India quite quickly actually. I've just checked them over and we've got all the bits that we need. So what we're going to do is, in this video, is we're going to replace the rotor and stator, and we're going to change the cam chain. Somebody wanted to have asked about the state of the tops of the valves. So you can see there, that is the inlet valve. So there's a slight dimple in there, but to be honest, 25,000 miles, you can't really feel that under your finger, so it's not really pitted. And that's the exhaust. Now the exhaust is a little bit pitted. You can actually see on there is a pit on the exhaust actually, ever so slightly. So we'll start off with the camshaft. We'll take the cam tensioner off, and then we'll get the pull the rotor off, take the cam off, change the chain, change the cam guides, reassemble the cam, get all that back together again, put the rotor back on, then the stator, and then obviously we'll get some silicone and some new sealant around the top of the rocker cover and get that sealed, and tap it's done, and we should be good to go. So I'm gonna, while I'm stripping down, we'll just have a look at some of the components for the general wear of the engine, just so you can see really typical sort of condition. So I've had regular oil changes on this bike, so I religiously change the oil 3,000 miles, sometimes a little bit earlier. I generally use the 1550. I use the Mortal semi-synthetic 1550 oil. Sometimes I've used the Castrol Power T. It's pretty good, but like I say, it's generally the Mortal stuff. So we'll have a look at the general wear and tear as we go along, and just give you some idea on, well, basically how the engine's doing. This is the starter ring. So there's a clutch on here at the back here. So we're going to lock the starter ring at the back. The rotor is bolted to the obviously to the gear at the back there. So we're going to remove the rotor bolt. Then we're going to screw on the tool, which is here. It's a Royal Enfield tool, to extract the rotor and the starter motor clutch. So basically this is the starter ring, and the starter motor is obviously the pinions up at the back there. So there's the starter motor, a couple of gears and onto the ring. So we'll take the rotor off first. So we managed to get the rotor off. However, it was not straightforward. I've had the blowtorch. The actual tool that I bought, I had to modify the tool, and let me explain. Basically, the puller was on so tight that I bent the bar that goes through the T. So the idea is you grab hold of a T-bar and you tighten the puller, and it's supposed to pull the rotor off. I had extended bars. I was actually bending the T-bar. So what I did was, basically, I've ground some flats on there to 17mm, drifted a long socket on, and used the good old faithful thing pack driver, couple of bursts, and that's pulled the rotor straight off. These are an absolute godsend. The good old impact driver. So, okay, now we have the rotor off. So very carefully, we'll withdraw. We've got to withdraw the Woodruff key there. So we'll take the Woodruff key out on there, and then we should be able to withdraw the clutch mechanism for the starter. So we've got the Woodruff key out. It's actually a taper, is that? So it's a taper fit, so you might need a bit of force. So that should just very carefully withdraw off there. So that is the starter mechanism, or I should say the starter ring. And we'll put that in a safe place. We've taken the cam chain tensioner out. So what we'll do is, before we fit it, we'll reset it. We'll undo this tension bolt, which will retract the spring, and then we'll reset this. But I'll also check to see exactly how far the plunger is out. So as that is at the moment, that's exactly set to how it was. So what happens there is that plunger at the end, when the chain gets very warm, that will be at its maximum extension. So what I'll do is I'll check to see how much there is of adjustment left. That'll give us an indication as to how warm the chain is. So we've withdrawn the chain, so the cam should lift out. Now there's a little woodruff key there. There's a little key that sits in that groove, so don't lose that key. So we'll take that key out and then we'll withdraw the cam. And here is the tech cam. So this particular cam, try not to zoom in on it. So it's got a about 30,000, what am I talking about 20,000 miles on it. So it's still in good condition. Looking at the lobes, the end float bearings are pretty good. When I reassemble this, I'll put some cam lube on. I always use a cam lube from when I used to build my mini engines years ago. So what we'll next thing to do is to take this lock washer off, replace these bolts. With the new tensioner kit, you get a replacement lock tab and bolts. So we'll change the sprocket and then we'll withdraw the chain. So the chain is all, you can see I've dropped the chain down into the cylinder block. It's now gathered up on there. So if you ever do a cam change, that's what will happen if you don't grab hold of the chain at the top. But we're going to replace all that anyway. So the next thing to do is to take the tensioners off and withdraw the chain. So now I've undone the little cap bolt there. This should pull this all the way up there. So there's one. And then we'll get the other one, which you can just see the top of it stuck up there. So that's kind of wedged in the bottom. So we'll take the chain off. Now the crankshaft has rotated slightly to top dead center, so we need to make sure that when we time this up that we get it all, that line there, that woodruff key is in line straight up with this cam bearing. So I'll put a long steel rule from here in line with the woodruff key right the way up to the center of that cam bearing. So we're just going to withdraw this second cam guide. So when you come to take out the left hand side, it literally put some roller grips on and pull the thing out, because it has these little grooves, can't see them, it's not in focus, which slots in. So that is now the cam chain, the tensioners and everything removed. So what we'll do now is a bit of a clean up and reassemble. Got the old chain at the back and the new chain at the front. The old chain is slightly longer than the new chain, but not by much. The next thing to do is we're going to change the cam sprocket. So we'll release these tabs, change the bolts and get the cam shaft sprocket replaced. So we've changed the cam shaft sprocket, put the new bolts in the cam, torqued them to about 40 Newton meters as the engineering manual says. We've got the woodruff key at top dead center. That's lined right up through the center, and obviously we've got the cam at the T at the top of the cam and the two lines. So all that needs to do now is to put the tensioner back in. So we'll put this side tensioner in, get that torqued in, and then we'll put the cam chain tensioner back in. With regards to the exhaust valve, I've very, very carefully just taken a tiny, just grounded the top of that valve. There was a tiny dimple in there. So while I've had the head off, while I've got the cover off, I've just put some cloth around and I've just very lightly ground that down just to smooth that off. Just to make the valve adjustment a little bit easier. So we'll keep an eye on that. It probably might need a new valve next time. But yeah, this is cam lube, so the red stuff is cam lube. So I just need to put the circlip back in there so the camshaft doesn't, obviously it's locked in place. Really important you get that little circlip in that groove there. And it's timed up. So then the next thing now is, once we get this timed up there, we'll get the rotor on and then we'll fit the stator into the cover, and I'll show you that. Okay, so a little bit of a problem earlier on, just getting the timing right because the chain's quite tight, but thanks as well to my friend James, who's just come round to give me a little bit of a helping hand. We lost a little thrust washer behind this cam chain guide, and my friend kindly noticed it tucked in the back there. So thanks for that, James, appreciated. So we've got the cam guides, they're on, the cam's timed up, so the woodruff key is straight up, the camshaft timing is right, the cam lobes are facing down, so that means obviously that the rockers are going to be in neutral position, so it's definitely top dead centre. So we've put some cam lube on there, that's all built, and I've also just put the cam chain tensioner in, which was actually fully extended, so I think it's probably due replacement, but I do think that the chain would last a lot longer, so it's not in a bad way at all. So all being well, this new chain will will certainly give us the little bit more longevity, but it's definitely nice and tight on there. There's no play at all, it's a nice snug fit. So that is all timed up. The next thing to do now, fit the woodruff key should I say, back into the crankshaft, and then we're going to disassemble the clutch mechanism off the old rotor, put that onto the new rotor, and then obviously we'll start to assemble the new rotor onto there like so. And then stator, put the stator onto the end cover, and then obviously we'll come up with the top end and obviously put the valve cover on. So a bit to do now, but I'm going to go and grab a brew, grab some tea, and carry this on tomorrow. So catch you then. Okay, so we fixed the new stator windings on. This is the crankshaft sensor. What do they call that? The Hall effect sensor, I believe. That's the Hall effect sensor. So you've got to be careful how you route the cables back under there. I've put some thread locker, some blue thread locker on these fixings. So that's all assembled. If we have a look at the other stator, so you can see where are we? Yeah, it's, as I showed you before, burnt out at the bottom there. I don't know if it's been vibrating, and it's obviously got hot on this point, and then the insulation's failed because it isn't at the top. Obviously it's at the hot at the back there, so you can see at the back as well where it's been running quite hot. This stator does look to be a slightly different colour. The insulation looks darker, so whether or not it's an improved stator, because obviously mine was a BS4, so this is a newer part, so whether or not they've sorted that out, who knows. So the next thing is to just double check the gears. So double check the starter gear setup there, make sure I've got those in the right, they're correctly seated, and then we'll go ahead and fit this back onto the engine. So the rebuild continues. We've got the left hand side engine cover back on with the stator. So now it's just a case of going to put the rocker cover back on. So we'll get some gasket seal around the top, not too much, just a light bead, and then get the rocker cover on, get that torque down, get the rockers adjusted, get the tappets set. I used the old gasket on the left hand side cover. To be fair, it was okay. It's like a metallic gasket, so we'll gamble, touch wood, we won't get any leaks. If we do, then we know that we need a new gasket, so I'm going to gamble on that. I'm also going to sort out the electrical connectors and that while we're on, but next job, get the rocker cover back on. So I just put some gasket sealer, say high temperature silicone, cleaned up the surfaces, degreased it, took the oil away, and just put a very light bead of silicone round. So I'll let that cure for about 8 minutes. This is the stuff I'm using. I have used the Loctite 5, I can't remember the number, I think it's the 59600, I believe, or something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but this is what I'm going to use. Just a gasket sealer, silicone based, and we'll drop that on the top, and all being well, let that cure for about 8 minutes, and then we'll put the rocker cover back on. Okay, so we've got the rocker cover. You can see the rockers there. So quick inspection of the of the ends and the ends of the rockers, and they appear to be in good condition, not pitted or anything. So what we'll do is we'll clean this up, get the old gasket off, and we'll put a little bit of cam lube on the bearing journals and just a little drop of oil on the rockers, and we'll get that put into position and get it torqued down. Okay, so good news, we've put it all back together, we've put the oil in, adjusted the tappets, started first turn of the key, and we are running at a lovely 14.2 volts. Absolutely, that's a tick over. So that's a nice, healthy, stable voltage there. It's not moving at all. So I think happy days. Just check the engine over for any leaks. Just sort a little bit of the electrics out here. This is a bit messy. I'm going to try and sort that out at the time. The main thing is to get the engine run up, make sure it's working. Tappets sound good. Okay, I'm going to just go around and check for any oil leaks. A little bit of a tidy up here and there. But we're back in action, folks. We are back. So all in all, a good job. Quite straightforward. Had a little bit of an issue trying to pull the rotor off the crankshaft, with that being a taper there. Like I say, I ended up using the impact driver to drive the to pull the thing off, which did work quite well. Had I have not had the impact driver, I think it would have been a lot harder. So it's a sort of job, it is quite straightforward. If you've got a reasonable mechanical ability, don't really need any specialist tools other than the puller. But I would say, for a novice who's never done any mechanical work before, it's probably quite a bit to take on. Somebody's asked me about the quietness by changing the cam chain. It's made no difference at all, to be honest. The original cam chain and sprocket, if I'm honest, there was hardly any wear on it. It was not, there was in comparison with the chain length, there was not a lot of stretch. So it's probably fair to say that this engine could probably have gone on for at least another 10, if not 20,000 miles before we changed the sprocket. But obviously I've got the stator off, or should I say I've had to pull the rotor off. So, why not? If you're doing that sort of work, it's false economy really not to change the timing chain. I probably wouldn't have changed the timing chain straight away, to be fair, had the stator not failed. And for the price of the stator, and so when you buy the stator you get the rotor with it as well, it comes with a kit. The cam chain, the cam guides, the sprocket, the cam sprocket, and the puller, I think all in all came to less than 120. It's about 120 quid from India, which I think is absolutely, I think that's fantastic. There's obviously when you get the rotor, you get the crankshaft, a new crankshaft sensor with that as well. And it literally is just ready to plug into your existing harness. So yeah, so thanks for watching. Hopefully it'll give you a little bit of an idea as to this engine. Not a lot of wear at all really. There was a little bit of wear on that exhaust and a cupping on the exhaust valve, and a few people have reported that. Again, not the end of the world. I do think that's something to look out for. So I think if you were to, maybe, when the engine gets a bit more high mileage, maybe the top tier valves could be an issue. So yeah, so again, thanks for watching. Looking forward to really getting back out on the bike again. And hopefully we shouldn't have any more issues now, and I look forward to seeing you, if any of you are out on the ABR, Adventure Bike Rider Festival in the UK in June of 2025. Come and say hello. I'll be on the Himi, and I can't wait. So all the best, safe riding, and mind how you go. Cheers.